So why did we look at it? One of the things that you guys that are in the health and fitness industry, and I'll pick more of my physio colleagues here, sometimes we get in our physio bubble and we don't see the bigger health and fitness world that we are becoming an increasing part of, and we need to become an increasing part of because otherwise we'll be left behind. But every year, the American College of Sports and Exercise Medicine delivers a survey on fitness trends. And what are the trends being seen? What are people requesting? What classes or services are more popular? What training are people within the health and fitness industry asking for, requesting, hooking onto, those sort of things. So it gives a very good overall view of what is happening. Now in 2012, this came across my desk, which made me say, okay, we have to keep our eyes open here. The tagline of the 2012 study was Zumba is in, Pilates is out. Okay, and that was fantastic. A nice provocative headline for everyone to look at, and it showed basically that Zumba had become the #1 fitness trend according to this list, and for the first time in, I believe it to be 9 years, Pilates was no longer on that trend list at all. So it was no longer a popular form of fitness. Wasn't being asked for, wasn't being requested for, class numbers had dropped, and less people going on to the training, as opposed to Zumba, which was going through the roof. Now, the interesting part of this is, in 2014, the latest study, high intensity training took over the #1 spot in the fitness trend list. Zumba was no longer in the fitness trend list. Now how these lists work is, if a form of exercise comes into the list and then is no longer on the list in a 4 to 5 year period, it's considered a fad rather than a trend. Does that make sense? So Pilates was in there for a long time, over that fad period. But interesting enough, for example, yoga wasn't in that list for many years, and now is back into that list. So you start looking at that and you start thinking, okay, that's interesting. One of the things that you look at is Zumba and spinning weren't in there anymore. But when we look at, we're now going to look at what the actual classifications were. And what you'll see is everything that we do within Pilates is still listed. This might not be called Pilates. But also, one of the really interesting things is when you look at why did yoga come back in, the belief is because there's so many varying forms of yoga now, that overall, the uptake of yoga has increased significantly. And that's one of the things that really jumped out at me. So, in Pilates, my opinion, just my opinion, we have to make sure we are evolving the technique to have differing options for people to take up a form of exercise that we all know is fantastic. And there was a very big difference, and I was involved with a lot of the big Pilates schools 12 years ago, and we all finally sat down and we started talking about trying to define a Pilates instructor. And in the end, after 2.5 years of meetings, we ended up, it didn't work because no one could agree on a single definition of what a Pilates instructor is. Because it is very different. Are you working with people in pain or not? Are you working with so-called fit, healthy people or not? Are you working in a rehabilitation setting or not? And all these things have different forms. That's why things like healthy Pilates as a variation, cardio Pilates, power Pilates, all these different things that sometimes are scoffed at because it's not true Pilates. Maybe we need to think, okay, well, there's a big world out there of people that are coming or going from a form of exercise that we all love and want to teach and want to see grow. So I certainly think that it's important for us to keep evolving the technique rather than just saying, no, this is it and you don't change it. So let's have a look at it. In a great way, 2012, high intensity was starting to be spoken about, but wasn't in there hugely. It's now the #1 fitness trend according to the 2014 survey. Bodyweight training was number 2. Okay? So using your body weight as a form of exercise. Some might argue, right is mat work. Educated and experienced fitness professionals. So I think that's really important. I think the public is demanding that a lot more from people. You get more and more people wanting to know, okay, where did you train, or what have you done, or what your qualifications are, and that was shown in the trend as well. Strength training remains a central emphasis for many clients. Incorporating strength training is a central part of the complete physical activity program for all physical activity levels and genders. So keeping that in mind, and that leads on to exercise and weight loss. So in addition to nutrition, exercise is a key component of proper weight loss. So we're looking at people, according to these training, wanting high intensity, body weight based exercises by experienced health professionals that incorporate strength training and weight loss. Okay, take the top 5. And we hope that this program covers most of those things. Number 6 was personal training. 7 fitness programs for older adults. It's huge. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And again, we must, and if you come into the Healthy Bones program, we talk about this. High intensity training can still be delivered for an older population. Because you can't say, okay, if you hit this age, then you can only do this form of exercise, because we know that that's ignoring physiological aging versus chronological aging. However, we do know there are certain age-related changes that are inevitable. And we'll talk about that when you see the program. So, you will see that this can place a lot of load on tendons, what we're going to do here today. Naturally, if you're doing our intensity program for an older population, that's what we first of all start to address. And so we'll show you some variations of that, because you're saying, okay, I know, for example, that no matter what you do, the foot ankle complex, the calf muscle complex is going to physiologically age quicker than any other part of the body. That's why it leads to falls. Okay? The number of type 2 fibers in the calf muscle decreases more than any other muscle in the body. The number of type 1 slow-acting muscle fibers increases. So we have a natural aging process, and then, in my opinion, somewhat incorrectly, we completely adapt our exercise to that physiological change. So we don't challenge that complex as much as we would in a younger time, and therefore that can speed up that natural physiological loss. So we will still do classes like this for our population, but you'll adapt it. Instead of jumps, you might do calf raises. Instead of big lateral movements, you might do side steps. So relative high intensity. For you and I, you might be thinking, okay, I'm not working hard enough. But for a 63, 64-year-old, actually they probably are working at a much higher intensity, because they may not have done a sustained period of exercise like that. Alright, let's have a look at this. Functional fitness. Functional fitness, everything is about function. Everything should be. I think it's correct. It's, again, and if any of you guys were at our annual conference that we have every year, last year we put a panel on. Alan Herman, Michael King, myself, Lee Morgan, Alistair Breatham, all master trainers from all the main Pilates teaching. And I asked them the question, what in the last 2 years has dictated the way that you teach your Pilates programs? And it was quite interesting, because the variation of those answers was interesting. We had some people saying actually ensuring that the technique is linked to its origins is what some people have focused on in the last 2 years, making sure that it isn't changed too much. Our view was get off the mat, get up into standing. We designed our whole 3D standing Pilates program around the fact we have to make sure we make that link in the mat to function. Those of you that have done our training will know that's a big part of it in our mat work. Does this exercise change the functional movement pattern? That's how our levels are designed. And again, it's up in this trend here. So again, you'll see in this, the majority of the high intensity stuff is up in standing. Our warm-up is all in standing. And we incorporate foot ankle work in every single warm-up. Because we know that's the part that leads to the falls risk in older adults, and therefore, no matter what we're doing, we're always looking at that foot ankle complex. Group personal training. People are moving significantly into group exercise. If you are going to move with the times and you're looking at the way your services are and where you're going, group exercise is really important. And physios, from my background being a physio, we can't ignore this trend to group exercise, and we have to be very conscious of it. And then number 10, yoga. It makes a comeback, falling out of the survey completely in 2009, not returning until 2014, and the belief is a growing number of variations in types may be an indicator of its return to the list, as yoga is offering more alternatives to the traditional form. I think we can learn quite a bit from that in relation to the Pilates world as well. I wanted to put the top 10 on because we could go on forever with this, but just shy of it was number 11, children in obesity, and I put it in here just because any time we can speak to a group of health and fitness professionals and remind us of the importance of class-based exercise for kids. We are about to start a hypermobility program for kids, because we're just seeing so many more kids with the issues of hypermobility, and in group classes around that we didn't see a lot of them. So actually next week we start the program. We've designed 2 different classes for age groups, and they'll go through that program over a term period, and we'll see how it goes, we'll see the response. But the group exercise for kids is really important. I'm not saying that kids shouldn't necessarily be doing this. They could do variations of it, of course. But it's really just to say, when you look at that, it is right there. It's only going to get more and more and more. And one of the things, again, we talked about on the Healthy Bones program is if we could only get people to maybe see osteoporosis as a pediatric problem, not as a geriatric problem, then actually we might be able to do something. So if we can get schools realising that actually a 10-minute upright bone loading exercise 2-3 times a day, a skipping rope, all the old stuff, the stuff we used to do in playgrounds, actually is really, really good and really important. We just bring that back in, and maybe we can do something here.